Hey man, what's going on? What's going on? This is Isaac, man, Ice Man. I'm just one half of the Under No Conditions podcast. My crazy, respectable co-host down there, Tiana. Yeah, church lady White. What's going on with you? What's going
What's
on
going
with you,
on,
T
y'all?
Money? Hey man, what's happening with you?
Hey, not much, just hanging in there. Your week been going good?
Hey, my week's been good. I can't complain too
Good.
much
That's
about nothing.
good.
But
Yeah.
you know what? We ain't gonna lie to you today. I think we need to just go right into
We're
what
gonna
we
get
need to
into it,
go right
okay.
into it. Woo, hey man, look, church lady, she created a post on Facebook and she asked a question that's so controversial. Um, and it's controversial for many different reasons based on people's belief systems, they spiritual belief systems, and just whole bunch of other factors that go into the everyday thought process. And the question that she raised was, who comes first, your children or your husband?
Or your spouse.
Whatever you want to call them,
Right. Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna sit on that one for a minute. I'm gonna say it again: your children or your spouse.
All right, y'all. So yeah, I came up with that question. It just kind of dropped in my mind because, like Iceman said, it's really one of those. It's just a whole lot of variables that came into it. But I wanted to ask some of my friends on Facebook. It's pretty much a really good, diverse group here of people. I'm not gonna say their names, but and then I got some calls too. Some people have reached out because they
Yeah,
didn't say anything on social media. But man, it's a consensus. I'm gonna say that. So, like Iceman said, who comes first, your children or your spouse? And the prominent response that I got on Facebook was the spouse. But I do want to throw this out there. Most of the people who said spouse, it was the men. I had a couple of women comment. They said, one of my friends said, it's supposed to be my husband, but it's hard to choose in between the two. Then I had somebody who's been married, who's in the church, somebody's religious, her and her husband. They've been married for a long time, so they have some equity in their marriage. And she had some a child or children before him. And she said that she governs her house like that her husband is always coming first, and she's always done that. But there have been scenarios where she has put her kids first, and maybe in situation he might not know about. So what she was saying is, it's kind of like, people say it's one thing, but
yeah,
deep down in our hearts, it's something different. And the main thing is, it all comes down to what scenario you in. Now, let me say this, Iceman. I don't know if you checked this. I did have a friend who said something about let me give y'all this response. It's supposed to be the spouse, but I always told my ex-wife, he's now not married, if it's me or the kids, you need to save the kids and use the life insurance wisely. And that's a variable too. So I think it's so many factors that come into it. But Iceman, let me get your thoughts on it, because I do want to share another person's response to it, and this is more from a religious point of view. From what
yeah,
I gather, I'm sorry, from what I gather, I think it just depends on the variables. Most people say they can't set it on one. I mean, most women say they can't say yay or nay. But the men were flat out, straight up. It's the husband. If it was a man, his husband.
First of all, I wanna thank everybody
Yeah.
that commented on the post.
Yes.
I read every comment. I even jumped on the link
Yes, he
and
did. Yes.
started responding and giving my own feedback. And what I'm gonna say is this: many times that question challenges what you believe in your relationship.
Yes.
And what I had to learn as a father and a husband, that my kids are going to grow up, and they're going to leave the nest. At some point in their travels, me being a parent, me watching them grow and mature, I had to learn how to step back and let go. Because at some point in your relationship, even if you're in a relationship with a partner and you guys are raising these kids, at some point your kid's gonna leave. And I'm saying this to say this. I've talked to many individuals that put their kids immediately first. And when their kids left their home, they were lost.
Yeah, that part.
Yeah, they hadn't developed a life outside of their kids. And even when putting your kids first, the frustration that comes along with that. Because when they get about 13 to 17, oh man, you
Yeah,
right. They,
right.
they begin to develop their own belief system,
Identity.
their identity. They start dealing with their peers and they learning different things from their peers. And they begin to develop their own belief system. And many kids, if you talk to them, the first thing they tell you, I don't want to be like my mom. I don't want to be like my dad.
Right.
Because they saw what you did. However, not understanding the sacrifices as a parent that you go through to make sure that they have what they have.
Right.
Now, for me personally, based on that experience, and I'm talking from the experience of having both parents in the household
Hmm.
because my father always put my mother first.
Right.
My father always knew that there was going to be a time that he was going to put us out. Let's keep it.
Yeah. Right.
It was time to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
By human nature, the mothers are nurturers,
Right. That's how we design.
right? They're going to do everything in their heart to try to protect their kids.
Right.
And it's difficult because I watched my mother go through this process with me. When it was time for me to go, and she stepped back out of that equation and allowed my father to do what he needed to do, she was hurt.
Yeah. I can imagine.
Understandably, she knew it was the best decision for me
Right.
because sometimes as kids, we don't want to make decisions.
Yeah.
And times were different then than they are now. Let's look at that.
That's true.
And, you know, many of us, we come from diverse households. Some of us come from two-parent homes. Some of us come from single mother homes. Some of us come from single father homes. And developing that belief system to always put your children first many times hinders them.
It does.
It hinders their growth because for me as a parent, I don't want my child not to be able to deal with life on life terms. I don't want them not to be able to make a decision when times get tough. I have no problem with them calling me and asking for some advice. However, as a parent, I know guess what? You have the final say.
Right.
So when we talk when we ask the question, we really challenging the belief systems of those who have been in positions where they have sacrificed and did
Hmm.
some things against they partner that they know they shouldn't do,
Hmm.
and vice versa.
Right.
You're gonna hear a lot of men say, "Look, I'm gonna put my wife first
Right.
because I understand the dynamics of the household, and I know as a father that my kids are gonna get grown and they're
Right.
gonna get sassy and they're gonna be getting on my nerves, but at some point they're gonna have to go out and smell the trees and smell the grasses.
Right.
On the other hand, a lot of women be like, not my babies. I'm,
Right.
I'm gonna keep them home as long as I can. Whatever I can do to save them from what I had to go through. Man,
Yeah.
you gotta let your
You
kids
got.
go
You
through something.
have to. You have to. Um. I just want to throw this out there. My perspective is unique, just like yours. When I was growing up, when my mom was married to my dad, I was little, and I knew my mother always told me I came first. Um. But when she married, when my parents got divorced, and she was with my bonus dad, there was a time when they started to get into the church and they gave their lives over to Christ and stuff. And me and my mother were just having a conversation, and my mother told me straight up that my stepfather came before me, And I'm gonna tell you, at that time, it literally broke me to pieces. She wasn't saying it in a negative way, like throwing it in my face, but we were having a conversation, you know. And at that time, I didn't get it, you know, because me and my mother had, well, I had been her world, she was my world too. But as I got older, I understood it. I understood the dynamic, but I'm gonna tell you this: I felt some type of way when she told me, because I felt like we were blood. You know, my bonus dad and
Exactly.
her weren't blood. But like she said at the time, she told me that, she said, "You're gonna get older. We're gonna disagree. You're not gonna talk to me. I'm gonna be mad at you. I still, you know, my husband's still gonna be here. I'm still committed in God's eyes to him first, you know." And I get it now. I get it. But as a single mom, I'm gonna just tell you, like, when I was married, I guess we didn't have those type of conversations because because it was understood. But I think with my daughter, the situation was different because she's always been a respectful kid. She loved him.
Okay.
She had a lot of respect for him. So we didn't have those issues where I had to choose. It was, if homie needs something, we doing it. But I'll tell you now, you know, as she's gotten older, it's kind of like, it's like, when I do, if I do get married, or when I do get married again, that's a conversation, a hard conversation me and my husband have to have. And that's some stuff in me that's gonna have to die to lend that over to my husband. You know what I mean? Because my daughter 18, and I see it now. That Bama don't call me like that. You know what I'm saying? I love my daughter, like, and I hate to say it because you know, we not friends, but that girl is the love of my life. She's like my best friend. But that Bama don't be calling me like that. You know
She
what I'm
don't be
saying?
she don't be checking
I
it.
I get calls like this, Iceman. Hey, Ma, how you doing? You all right? Yeah, yeah, I'm doing good. Ma, you think you can send me $40? You know, I get them calls. It ain't, you know, it ain't no, hey, Ma, do you want to talk? It's, yeah, yeah, man, because I ain't eating nothing today, Mom. You know, so, but like you said, your children grow up and they leave the nest. And when they leave, what you gonna do? But I like what you give us credit for. Women, we are nurturers, so that's something in us that has to evolve over time. But if you don't mind, I'm gonna throw this in there because you commented on this post. There was a pastor that I know who commented, and you know, he gave, you know, basic according based on to Christianity in scripture. It's in the word that, you know, the woman is God, the husband, then the wife. You know what I mean? And you gotta put your husband or your spouse before your children, because that's just the design of it, you know. And I got that, but I think I asked him offline scenarios when there are stepkids involved, because how does that work? And he said it's the same situation.
It's the
You know
same
what I mean? It's the
process.
same
Yes.
thing, so it don't matter. So yeah, I thought
You
that was
know,
interesting.
it's that concept, that biblical concept is a very difficult concept to adapt
Yeah,
when people have to look at it that way.
right,
God, your husband, or your spouse,
right,
then your kids.
yeah,
However, it could be navigated where everybody can still be first.
yes. Let's talk
You
about that.
right.
You commented on the leadership, and I love what you said about that.
And it takes both parents to have those tough conversations and to find a balance. Because one thing we do know about kids, if we're not careful, they will split you.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Even
We've seen it happen.
yeah, it will split you, and and they will destroy your household
Yeah,
if you're not careful, and you and your partner is not having those difficult conversations. And that's where the leadership comes in, because in those decision makings, it has to be some trust.
yeah,
And second of all, you know what I learned is that you can't lead emotionally.
love it, love it.
You can't make those tough decisions if you in your feelings.
Right, because your feelings gonna always win if that's the case.
But your feelings will mislead you too.
Absolutely.
Because as parents, I've made some decisions in my feelings, and I'll be like, man, I don't even know why I did that.
Yeah,
because at that time I thought it was a great idea, but it wasn't. It turned out not to be a great idea
Right.
because of my own personal vendettas with myself.
Right.
And in that process, many times I like what you said about, you know, your daughter knows that you mom, but she's the love of your life. She's like your best friend. That was something I had to work on
Yeah.
because I had to get to a place where I had to realize my children ain't my friends.
Right. Right. You're right.
I ain't they buddies. We ain't homeboys. We ain't homegirls. Nah, we not doing that.
Right.
And that comes with growth and maturity and leadership. And leadership in the home with both parents can be tough because sometimes you may make a decision in your home I may not like. I may have to at that point I may have to just sit still
Right.
because what normally happens or what usually happens is when you make those decisions out of emotions, they come back.
They do. And bite you in your butt. They
Yeah,
do.
they tap you on
Every
the shoulder.
time.
They
Yeah.
tap you on the shoulder.
Yeah.
And it's great to be able to sit down and have conversations with your children, man.
Yeah. It is.
In leadership, your children have to have a voice in your house, not a disrespectful voice,
Right. That
right?
part.
Not an argumentative voice,
That's where people get it confused. You're right. These
right?
kids do have they have a right to their opinions, but like you said, a respectful voice.
And sometimes because our children are so opinionated, we
They
may
are.
not like their point of view.
Mhm.
However, it gives you an opportunity to get into the mind of your child
Yeah.
and understand and look at how they thinking.
Right. Can I pause you right there?
You
Let me
sure
ask
can.
you this. The voice that you give or allow your children to have now, me too, was it the same voice our parents allowed us to have? Because on my end, it wasn't. Okay. All right. Go ahead. My bad. Go ahead. All right. I'm sorry.
Hey, for you guys who just tuned in for the No Conditions podcast, man. I'm Isaac. My co-host Tiana. Tonight's subject is who comes first, your spouse
I
or
need
your
to ask that.
children?
Right. Right.
Man, you got my answer. Because
Right.
when I grew up, it was guess what? You know what it is.
Right. Me too.
Be seen and not be
And I
heard.
heard. Yeah. I tell
Right?
you about this the story my mother told the therapist at the school, and when she was like, Tiana plays around and she talks and acts out because you guys are going through a divorce. My mother said, I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn what we going through. I don't give a damn. She need to shut her mouth and I'm gonna beat her ass until she get it. Yeah, that's what my mother said to the therapist.
She go get it. She go
Yeah,
give
but
it
see
to
now
you.
we could never do that. You know what
Could
I'm
never do
saying?
that.
But yeah, that's another story. But go ahead
Hey,
though.
I think our kids have more options
Yeah,
to succeed.
yeah, I agree.
However, many of our children, and I don't care how people think about it. Look, I've worked with adults and children's all my life. Don't
Hmm.
have the emotional capacity that we have,
Right,
that we had to entail growing up.
right.
Because emotionally and mentally, we had to be tough,
We did.
right? It was no crying in my house.
Yeah.
You want me to
Me
give you
too.
something to cry for,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Now we tell our kids that it's okay for
To
you to
cry.
cry, and you know
Yeah.
what? And it is okay for you to
Yeah.
cry, and
Yeah.
it is okay for you to express yourself.
Hmm.
However, I notice when when with my kids, and for a long time, when things got tough and they didn't have the capacity to make a decision or to navigate through a situation, they would break down.
Mm.
Versus me growing up, when I had a situation that I needed to navigate and had to make a decision, I figured it out.
Right. That's
And I'm
it.
quite sure you did too. You figured it
Yeah.
out.
My mother would say that. Figure it out.
Figured out.
And let me know what you're gonna do. Figure it out. And we'll go from there.
So many of the concepts that I grew up with, I tell my kids, oh, they come with me a question. I'll be like, well, you just answered your own question.
Right. Yeah.
Or I'll tell them in a minute, figure it out.
Yeah.
because
Or just go in and let them know. Like my mother, I've always been indecisive. My mother just like, look. Shut. I don't want to hear that. All right. I don't want to hear that. Make the decision. What's it gonna be right now, and go from there. We ain't got all that time to pity patty, think about this and other variables. This is where we at right now. What you gonna do?
yeah,
And I
and
appreciate it for that. I do.
and one thing I had to learn in my struggles as being a parent, because I've struggled as being a parent.
Hmm.
The hardest lesson that I had to learn and I had to incorporate into parenthood is understanding that no was necessary because yes is expensive.
Yeah, I
You
like that.
understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And if 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 you continue to break what you're doing or stop what you're doing for your child, you provide them a disservice. You don't allow them to begin to learn the necessary coping skills of life
right,
and have them understand that guess what? Life don't revolve around you
right,
and your personal needs and how you think and how you feel.
right.
Because life don't care about your feelings.
At all. And nobody
It
owes you
don't.
anything.
And nobody owes
Not
you
even me.
anything.
Right,
So, when we talk about who comes first, when and how, a lot of it is based on general belief systems.
yeah,
Many people tell you nothing's coming before my kids.
yeah,
And they'll stand on that. And then you'll have a variety of different people be like, I'm always going to put my spouse first because I know the general order. And I understand that my kids is not going to be in my life all my life.
right. Well, let me throw this out there too. I just want to share and get your thoughts on this. Excuse me. I had an older gentleman in my family with a very unique situation. He wanted to get our thoughts on it, and I'll read what his response would be, but he wanted me to put it out there first. So him and his wife had been married for about 38 years. Prior to them marrying, she had a couple of kids, two daughters, right? I mean, a daughter and a son. And the thing about it was they had a son together and a daughter, together. But she had two kids previous from a previous marriage. And the issue that they ran into with that, he was like, my wife was always above anybody, but she didn't give the same respects when it came to her kids prior to him.
Right.
They were always, he was like, I've always known that if it was between me and them, it's always gonna be them. And he gave the example that his bonus children are not uh people who can function on their own without her assistance, whereas the two children they have together can. And he wanted to get our thoughts on that when it comes to a situation with and we touched on it with previous kids. And as a man, at what point do you say this is not okay, or do you even engage with them? Because sometimes you can't just make somebody feel like because you their spouse, their kid's gonna come after you. So he wanted to get our thoughts on that. He said, yeah, it's definitely an old situation, but it's something in hindsight that he wish he would have addressed prior to getting married. And he said they got married young. I'm sorry,
Mhm.
they got married young. They weren't religious at the time, but this is definitely something that I feel like other brothers or young men need to address, or young women need to address prior to getting married. So he wanted to throw that out there, put that out there as a topic. Maybe we could talk
My
about.
my question is, are all the kids grown now?
Oh yeah, they big
They're
grown. Yeah,
adult and they out
yeah,
the house.
yeah. They
So
out the house. Yeah.
this happened in the process of their journey through their own relationship and
Yes,
getting married, right?
yes. But the children she had before him are not. They're codependent upon her.
Okay, we can touch that. First of all, there's a lack of communication there,
Hmm.
and there's some uncomfortability there because that's a very difficult conversation to type
Right.
because when you have children outside of the relationship and then you have children within the relationship, those children going to look at each other differently.
They do. They do. He said that too in my conversation with him.
They're
Do
they're going to look at each other
they do?
differently. And I'm outside looking in, and it's never a judgment. It's the responsibility of the parents
Right.
to
Agree.
merge that gap.
That's what he was saying. Yeah.
And it sounds like that gap never merged,
Mm. Mm.
because sometimes when the parent is codependent on the children, and sometimes it ain't so much the children codependent on the parent,
Right. Yeah.
right?
Right.
That's another conversation.
Totally
Because
different.
you know, we can we can put it on a plate how you want to. However, it sounds like to me that she was more codependent on her children
Then they were on her.
than they were on her.
Right. Right.
And that was her comfort zone.
Right.
So when she had two children by him, what happens is a lot of times it becomes a separation,
Yeah.
because now daddy's now the daddy's in the picture.
Right. It. Yeah. He said that. I'm reading this. He say, oh, and remember that the children that he basically was saying, the children that they had together do feel like he was tougher on them, and they
Exactly.
lived a totally different lifestyle. And he made the comment when we talked. He said a lot of time it's the older children that feel slighted towards the younger. He said, but the younger feel slighted towards them because the things that the older children do, the way they talk to her, they could never do that. And he
Exactly.
feels, he said, I've always felt throughout the course of the marriage, when my children would bring that up, what could I say? There wasn't much that I could say because it is a difference.
That's a tough situation, because it sounds like to me that there was no solid camaraderie there.
Right.
Because yeah, I'm coming in, she got two kids already,
Mm-hmm.
so they're her babies. Then you meet me, and I'm coming in with the responsibility of raising those kids and being their father. See, I don't do the step stuff. if
Right.
if you my child, it don't matter what's the situation.
Right.
And when you bring children in through a union, you always have to communicate.
Right. And that's what he was saying. He was telling, he wants the younger brothers or women looking to get married, this conversation needs to be had before marriage. Even in the circumstances where if one person has kids, but they don't have kids together.
Exactly. You have to have that conversation, because if you don't have that conversation, what's going to happen is eventually those kids going to split you and your wife, your partner, emotionally.
Right.
Because and then what happens if you're not careful? One parent feels like they're doing more than the other.
Yes. I'm glad you put that in there.
You
Excellent.
know, now it's chaos,
Right.
because there was a level of disrespect from her kids,
Mm-hmm.
because as the other kids got older, the other kids watched the older kids disrespect their stepmama.
Right. Yep.
The daddy didn't say much,
Right.
because he felt like he was in a boxing too,
Right.
and it had been going on for so long with the mother. The mother just brushed it off like it's not nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
You understand what I'm saying?
I do. I get.
So now you got this boxing six, because it's 6-1, and nobody knows what's going on, and it's nothing solid
Right.
as far as communication. There's no boundaries.
Right.
So
Exactly.
so what happens is, in that marriage, silently, subconsciously, the parents split.
Yeah. Agreed. I
So
like that
he
you put
so
that
he
in.
yeah, so he raises his parents like he raises his kids, not how his stepkids are.
Right. Right.
So now the younger kids, they envious of the older kids, because they can talk back and do all this other stuff. And guess
Right.
what?
Right.
And not get chastised. But as soon as I suck my teeth,
Yeah. Right. And he said that he was like, there's been times where, we've addressed it and they've addressed it with him, not a disrespectful manner, but he said there was nothing that he could say at the time because they're all her kids. They just the first two weren't with him, but all four of the kids are hers. But he said that it definitely caused a divide, especially
It
in
it
their
will,
relationship.
yes, it will cause a divide.
Hmm.
And that's tough because a lot of times when there's children, I'm not talking about younger children, I'm talking about teenagers, 8, 9, 10, and a man or a woman comes into that environment, right?
Hmm.
The one thing I always talk about, and we talk about this a lot, that environment is not studious for that man or
Right.
that woman. It's built around the two.
Right.
So them two can function in that.
Hmm.
Now you bring a woman in there or you bring another man, that dynamics change.
It does, absolutely.
And sometimes that dynamic gets ugly.
Yeah.
However, in that split, either or person is always going to have their kids first.
Yeah. Now, can I throw this out there? One of my old coworkers sent me this text message. Just bear with me. Um, he said in a situation where, okay, he said in my situation, I brought kids to the equation. My wife doesn't have any kids. In my mind, if anything goes down, I'm going to protect my kids, do whatever I can for my kids at all costs. Sometimes she's not okay with that, but as long as I'm spending my own money and not taking from the family pot, the household pot, then I don't see what's wrong with that. What do you guys think? She doesn't have any kids.
Whew.
He has kids from a previous relationship. Far as I know, the kids do not live with him. I do know he's a great father. Anytime, the kids call, he is stop, drop, and roll. I've seen him do it. I used to supervise him. It didn't matter what's going on. You know how situations sometimes the kids get
Yeah.
sick in school, their mother wasn't going. He was the going. So his thought process is as long as it's not taken away from the financial part between him and his wife, it shouldn't be an issue. What he wants to know what you think.
What I think he brought in two kids from a different relationship. Um, I would like to know what his last relationship was like with his kids
Mm,
because whatever did not work.
right. Between
uh,
his and the mother, you talking about his kid's
Right,
mom?
right,
Okay.
and the emotional dysfunction that he may have had to go to because they separated,
Right.
right?
Right.
When he got into a new relationship, he already made up his mind.
Hmm.
No matter what relationship I am, ain't another woman gonna come before my kids,
Right.
right?
Right.
That's a decision. Once again, we talking about sitting down and having difficult conversations.
Right.
Now, and you saying that she don't like that he does that all the time.
Well,
However,
no, he didn't bring her into the equation. He said it doesn't matter what she likes.
it
If
doesn't
there's a
matter.
situation and it's with his kids, as long as it doesn't take financially from their household, he don't see a problem with it. As long as it's not taken from the financial aspect, he ain't even, now that I think about it, he didn't mention the emotional or the respect aspects of what's going on. So,
So yeah, that's my lady. But when it comes to my kids, I don't have no respect for you.
mm,
That's tough.
yeah,
And that's in many relationships when kids are involved, that's not the other parties.
right, yeah,
And many times that conversation can be gooey and it can be sticky because it brings an honesty that creates emotions in people that sometimes
mhm,
they don't have the capacity to deal with at that level of, of communication.
right, right,
That's like you really like a guy and I mean you like him. It has
mhm,
nothing to do with financials and everything. You feel like you want to be emotionally vested and
right,
you guys sit down and have that conversation and you hear something in that conversation that makes your nose hairs rise.
right,
Now you got to make a decision
right,
because at the end of the day, you guys might have two different parenting skills,
Exactly.
right?
Right.
Are your parenting skills going to mesh,
That part right there.
right? You know,
Yeah.
your daughter. I'm gonna say, let's say if she was 15 and a young man, you know, how do you think your daughter's going to feel about me coming into the equation, understanding that it's just been you and her for a minute,
Right. Right.
right?
Right.
If it's possible, before we even make a decision, before we even have a relationship, can we sit down and have a conversation?
Right. But I
You
think we
know,
get so entangled in the and we romanticize relationships. We like, nah, we'll figure it out when we get there.
nah, we can't. No, you can't
Can't
figure that
figure it
out.
out when you
I'm gonna
get
be honest with you, man. Yo, it's an ugly truth. You can't figure it out
nah.
because, and I've told you this, man. If you got kids, the first thing I'm gonna pay attention to when that time comes that I might have an opportunity to see you and your child interact, how y'all interact.
Right.
If your child is disrespectful to you, oh my gracious,
Yeah.
I know I may have the emotional capacity. However, do I want to step in that and try to stir that pot?
Right.
Because you and your child have become adaptable in that chaos.
That. That right there. Let me hold you right there. Let me just give you a quick example. I did date somebody years ago whose child was super disrespectful to them. Um, and it got to a point where that person, like you said, it just was normal for him. It wasn't normal for me to hear a child talk back to him, or say stuff to him like that
Mhm.
over in my house. And my thing is, we were dating. The girls got along great. They were like sisters, but I had to address that. Like, if you're not going to address it, then I got to step and address it. And I did. I told her, I said, listen, the way you talk to your father when y'all home, by all means, do whatever you're going to do. But here in my house, you can't talk to him, or around me. You can't talk to him like that. And I feel like it established a level of respect. But at the same time, I'm glad that I saw that. What if I didn't see that? What if every time we went
Exactly.
around, everything was peachy keen? You know what I mean? So I agree with you.
I think in a situation like that, I used to think like that. As long as you're not around me, you could do whatever you want with your mama. But when I'm in the picture, I don't want to hear you. And you know, growing up and maturing, I think I'm not going to think. I know I would address now. I would address it different. I don't care if I'm not around or not.
Don't do it.
That's your mother.
Right,
You should not be disrespecting your mother. Because at the end of the day, guess what? No matter what your relationship is like or how you feel about her, that's your mama.
right,
And if it wasn't because of her, you might not be where you are.
right.
Good,
Exactly.
bad, or indifferent.
Right.
So it's like, you know, sometimes it's damn if you do and damn if you don't.
Yeah.
However, once again, back to the question, who comes first? I think it comes down to family dynamics, belief
Yep.
systems, emotional connections.
Emotional. Yep.
Um, a lot of times we have things in our childhood that we hold on to and we bring them into our relationships,
Yeah.
and we say, well, you know, when I get old and I have children, I'm most definitely not going to do what my parents did, or I'm going to do what my parents did, and I don't care what nobody else say because I'm comfortable in that.
Right.
I'm comfortable in that awkward space. And you know, that's okay for those who do it. However, for me, being you know who I am and where I come from, and my own life experiences, many of the things that I saw in my parents' household and how they navigated and how they raised their kids, it works today.
Yeah. It should be applied today, and it will still be a
Right.
success.
It
But I
it
love
work
what you
it
said with your mom. I know it hurt us as mom. We don't want to tell our babies no. We know
Yeah,
they need to be said no. We know it's time for little Momo to get up out of here because she ain't worked ever in
yeah,
her.
yeah.
You know?
Little Momo coming in the house at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
Little
yeah,
Momo and start smoking a smoke choker. He the smoking
yeah.
the
In
weed.
my house, you know what I'm
Yeah, he's
saying?
smoking
So
in the
yeah,
house. He drinking.
yeah. Bringing
He
people
being
over.
he being
Yeah,
disrespectful. You walk in the
yeah,
house, he got a girl in the bedroom, the bed squeaking. Y'all know what it is, man.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
time for little Momo to go.
It's
Little
time for little Momo to go, y'all.
Ah, You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's going to be a question that's always going to be controversial and based on the belief systems and how people were brought up, um, their current and their past lifestyles. And a lot of times in relationship, for me, even as friends, when I'm meeting people, I want to know how you feel about your mama, how you feel about your daddy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have those uncomfortable. Oh, I have them.
Yeah.
What was
Now
your
let me ask you that: is if you meet a young, if you meet if you, when you dating, if you met a young lady, she ain't mess with her mom, her and her mom had a horrible relationship, did that impact or your decision of if y'all wanted to date or not?
Yes, it
If
will.
you wanted to date or not?
It will.
Okay.
Because if she don't have a relationship with her mom, it's a clear indicator, and she had no father, we're gonna have some problems.
Right.
Because will she be able to listen? Will she be able to follow directions? I'm big on respecting your parents. I don't care what you feel about your mama or your daddy. That's your parents.
Right.
If it wasn't because of them, you wouldn't be here.
Right.
You don't always have to like what they say, how they say it, when they say it. However, at the end of the day, I'm gonna share an experience with you.
Hmm.
It's many things that my parents would say to when I was a child. I didn't understand then.
Right.
I understand now.
Right. Right.
And I be having my moment, I'd be like, oh man, okay.
Yeah, it happens, man.
Yo, man, I'd be like,
Happens.
I,
I get
okay,
it. Yeah.
get it now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times, we live in an unrealistic world
That's
sometimes.
true. Yeah.
And you really have to, you have to really know and understand your motives when you walking into a relationship, especially when kids are involved. And you got to
Absolutely.
be honest with yourself. Do I have the capacity to walk into a situation and I'm not clear about what it is
Yeah. Yeah.
before I even be like, you my person? Man, we
Yeah.
gotta have some man, look, we gotta have some conversations.
Yeah.
It may get ugly. We might have to argue, but we're gonna have to put it all on the table
Have to. It's mandatory.
because at the end of the day, I'm not gonna let your children split us,
Yeah.
even if you do.
Right.
I'm gonna be clear about that
Yeah.
because there's gonna be some things that you may allow your children to do, and I'm gonna look at you. I'm gonna be like, "What you doing?"
Right. Right.
I might not say it to you when today, but when they go outside or go to work and we by themselves, man, I'm gonna check you.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna give you a scenario, and I hope you see it my way because the outsider look coming in, man, they don't see things the same way you
As
might see
as
things because guess
yeah.
what? You've been in it for a minute.
Exactly. Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Got it.
So is it a clear cut answer? No,
No.
it comes first.
Yeah.
It has to do with many different factors. Um, especially your belief, your spiritual, and how you was brought up and learned and taught behaviors. All those come into the equation.
Mm.
Um, but one thing about for me is that because I come from a family and I know what family entails. See, I got a chance to see the ups and downs, and I understand it's not supposed to be perfect. So I had a head start.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
having a family is something that I always wanted. It didn't matter whether or not she had kids or not.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna
Hmm.
make it do what it do. I'm coming in there. Look, I feel like I got the leadership and I got the emotional capacity to be able to make adjustments. Is it going to be difficult? Yes. Is it going to be demanding? Yes.
Yeah.
However, I had to learn how to communicate. And I think that's one of the biggest issues in many relationships. We are afraid to dig into those real deep conversations that's going to create an emotional barrier that sometimes we not ready to touch
Right. Absolutely.
because that
Absolutely.
that affects that not only affects your relationship with your kid, that affects the relationship with your partner.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. I want to throw something else in there too. I know we're wrapping it up, but also people need to understand, even if you're dating, you're older, and you're an empty nester and things of that nature, don't just assume because people have older kids, oh, I ain't got to worry about that. Kids never go away. They could be 40, 50, 60. So if you got an older kid that's 40, still needing help with their rent, it still affects you. So these conversations don't end because the person has adult children, because you need to look at that relationship too and keep that in mind. I think a lot of times people say, "Oh, what they got? I only have to deal with it because they until they're 18." They always gonna be that person's kids,
They're always gonna be there.
and they're always gonna be there. So those are conversations you need to have regardless. But yeah, man, this was good though.
Hey man, I'm gonna tell you, man, you better stop it.
Hey, look, we on the road. Hey, but before we go, y'all, we want y'all to stay tuned in. We got some great topics. We're gonna talk about men in leadership roles, emotional capacity, with women who raise their sons or single mothers, things of that nature. And then we got some other stuff coming up. So y'all make sure y'all stay tuned and check us out for real.
Hey, most definitely, man. We out here. We don't have all the answers.
Nope,
We don't act like we got all the answers. But I'm gonna tell you something. We got some life experiences,
we do.
and we just want to share them with you guys. And it's okay if you disagree. I'm fine with it.
Right.
You know, but that's
We
why they
shoot,
call
we
out.
disagree.
Yeah,
Shoot.
we just man,
Yeah.
man, look,
He be tightening me up. Y'all be mad. I don't answer his texts or calls. What's
hey
up?
man. And then she answered the phone like she just talked to me yesterday. Like she ain't well, I ain't gonna tell your business. We ain't gonna do that. We don't do that. Hey,
Right.
look, that's why our show is called Under No Conditions. Because we're gonna tackle some things that may be uncomfortable. And like I just said, we may not have all the answers, but we're gonna give you what we got.
Right.
And hopefully for those who view the broadcast, um, hopefully we have given you something that you can put in your memory bank and hold on to it, and hopefully it's something you can use later down yourself. For myself, Church Lady Tiana White, we are the Under No Conditions podcast. And if ain't nobody tell you they love you guys today,
Love
hey
you.
man, we love you guys. Peace.